Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday, and welcome back to another episode of GovConHacks, your go-to podcast for actionable insights in the government contracting space. So today's episode is super special to me, near and dear to my heart. It's Information Technology Industry Special, and while Natasha is not joining us this evening, she's trick-or-treating with our littles. I am super excited to introduce an exceptional guest with us, someone who has experience in this space. So, ladies and gentlemen, meet Michael Cardenas, CTO of MC3 Technologies.
Hey everyone, happy Halloween and aloha. Thank you for
Well,
having me here, Ashley.
I'm so happy you're here with us. So, I wanted to bring you here first to tell us a little bit about yourself and your company. That way, the audience can relate. And
Excellent. Yeah, thanks, Ashley. I'm Mike Cardenas, CTO of MC3 Technologies. We are a cybersecurity digital modernization or IT firm based here in Hawaii. Primarily, we focus on DoD clients, though we do help some private industries helping people with cybersecurity hygiene and compliance. Um, we've been at this for about 3 years now, and Ashley has been here every step of the way with us from when we thought we would get into this business and bid on a couple of things and win everything in the world to today where we have a much more strategic approach to things. So thank you again, Ashley.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And you've had such an interesting sort of journey in this space. And I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about that tonight. Let's rewind a bit to sort of that first meeting. What brought you into government contracting? Like I remember, but to hear it from you.
Yeah, I've been in IT since I was a kid, I believe. My dad bought me this PC and he gave me a magazine of code and said, type this out and you're gonna have a game. And from then I was hooked, I was like 10 years old. Um, did a little bit of a web development, learned a little about networking in high school, and right after that, I joined the Hawaii National Guard, and I've been, I was in the military, learned more about cybersecurity and all these great things. And it's been 24 years since I was military for a bit. I have been part of the industry as a federal contractor, working for the larger firms on different projects here in Hawaii and around the world. Um, and it came to a point about 10 years ago where I was working for other small businesses and we're building teams and we're being really agile and going after lots of contracts and we're winning and we're doing really great. Um, I just thought that was just such a cool feeling, right? To build the team and get really focused on a problem and solve that problem, and then just deliver quality results to a customer. And that made me excited. And so came a point where that company was doing very well, and I decided, like maybe I'll try my hand at this. I'll go take my past experience and go bid some contracts. Yeah, we're veteran owned, we're a women owned company. Surely we'll win something quickly, right? Maybe that was a little naive, but that's where Ashley came in, and we were like, we don't know what we don't know. The bidding, what's on SAM, is getting very difficult, so we don't really know how to navigate this, and so we found that while we were very good at IT and technology and delivering to the customer, we weren't good at all the other stuff, right? So yeah.
Yeah, the operational stuff can definitely hinder a small business. But aside from that, I mean, you had experience coming in,
Yeah.
and we used your professional experience in part and Charlene's to market your company essentially. And you now have a lot of relationships as a result of that, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, and that's the key, right? Is the relationships. You can be very good. You can be the best. You can be the best ever, right, Ashley? But if you don't know how to deliver that message to your end customer, then you're gonna have a really difficult time. And I think as an engineer, like I'm an IT engineer, that's not my forte. It's not the thing that comes to mind. Like I want to go out and network all the time. Um, but we found that that's something we had to do, right? We had to craft our message so that people could understand it. That I wasn't blabbering a bunch of like hot keywords like cloud and DevOps. I had to be a lot more purposeful, right? A lot more direct.
Yeah, intentional and speaking in terms of the layman, right? Because not
Yeah.
every recipient of your materials or your sales pitch or your presentation is going to understand the acronyms that are pertinent in your industry. So you might be hitting the right person with the wrong message sometimes. And
Yes.
so we know what you thought it was going to be like,
Yeah.
but what are some of the sort of lessons that you learned along the way, that are specific to this industry? Because I'm not talking about janitorial landscaping. I'm talking about technical.
Ah, there's so much. There's so much to unpack there. Like I said, we had a lot of experience in software development, IT modernization, automation, integration as a whole. Um, but that didn't translate very well when I put together a proposal and I said, like, here's all of our experience, here's what we did, here's the skill sets. Still didn't win us anything, right?
Yeah,
Not as a prime, right? And still today, we're mainly subcontracting. Um, but it was like, how do I craft this message properly? How do I put together a proposal? Like, we obviously know what we're doing, we're very good at it, but putting that to paper and giving it to a customer in a way that's understandable to them and actually conveys the value they would have from working with us was actually very difficult, right? So, lesson learned was, know how to write well, right? And not just technical writing, know how to write to tell a story about what you do and the value you bring, and don't be afraid to go and collect testimonials about the work that you do, right? And
that's
network with the
right.
folks that you might be delivering it to, let's say, NAFAC, right? But if they don't know you, then maybe it doesn't go anywhere, right? And so, a big part of it is, getting in with your customers and networking, going to these industry events, those kinds of things, right? So,
Hi, Charlene. Tell Charlene I
yeah.
said hi. So about that, we learned early on through market research that contract vehicles were going to be one of our biggest barrier to entries.
Right.
And I remember there being multiple times where, it seemed every agency we would make a little traction and then, soup became the word of the day. So everybody likes soup. How did you mitigate that challenge?
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time with a specific technology, kind of getting that into the government and making a really good name for ourselves in terms of delivering it, working with that vendor, right? Came to a point where people were like, okay, well, we definitely want to use you all, but you have to be on Soup, right? You have to be on whatever Seaport, or there was many
Their
different
best in
contract vehicles,
class, yeah, vehicles of preference, basically.
right? And so it's like, well, we're a small business, and we're like, okay, what does it take to get on Soup? And you look at it, and it's this massive effort, right? And we're definitely not getting on there, at least not right now, right? As a young, less than 2-year old company, it was unrealistic with the resources we had to try to get on there. And so, what we did is we looked at all the Soup winners, the Soup contract holders. We looked at that whole list, and we did our best to try to connect with each and every one of them, or at least those that we felt we had some alignment with. And that's where the work comes in, right? As you now you know who's on that contract vehicle. Now I've got to figure out a way to approach them in a way that's not too salesy, right?
Right.
In the way that we can build a relationship that they can benefit us, but we can benefit them, right? So how can we be good business partners?
Right, and I bet that mutual benefit wasn't just your set asides, was it?
No, it was not. Yeah, it was
No.
so much more. You know,
There has
yeah.
to be a compatibility, and now you're on a few teams with Soup, and you've made traction there. What do you think now that Soup 6 is out? I had some clients that were like, they wanted in, they even invested resources, and by the end of it, they were like, heck with that. We'll stay a
Yeah.
sub. Is that how you felt about that solicitation?
It is, we heard that Soup 6 was coming out, or like really excited. Like, we're a small business, we've got these set asides, surely we can make a case for it. And it came out and we looked at it, and it's like, it's probably within the first couple days that we looked at it, we were like, that made that go, no go decision. We're like, definitely no go. Too big. We have this network now. We're listening to everyone, all these massive say massive small businesses, right, are going after it. And we could have spent months on it and probably invested lots of money and resources and time, but I didn't like our chances, right, given the competitive landscape of it. So yeah, we have decided to kind of stay a sub, work on those business relationships, and try to get after it that way.
And I find, I mean, just, government contracting aside, just, sales 101, your cost per sale is so much less as a subcontractor. You're building that past performance at the same time that you can use later, because once you're a sub on soup, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, because you probably spent much longer reviewing those requirements than I did, in full transparency, but you had to have experience on soup 5 to even qualify for soup 6, did you not?
I believe so. Yeah, we didn't spend too much time on it, but yeah, I had some past performance, past experience requirements there built in. Just like Seaport recently had a requirement that she had worked with the Navy, right, in some capacity. So yeah.
And I know that that was a competitive one. They got hundreds of proposals. I think there were like 5,000 questions from industry. And
Yeah.
apparently everybody used AI to do their proposals because they set it on pause. But that's another topic
Right,
for another day.
right.
So for our listeners, I mean, now luckily we did that market research early. We knew that um, there was going to be a barrier to entry with the vehicles and just the spending trends. Had you not had that information at your fingertips, do you think you'd have spent longer chasing the solicitations and sifting
Yeah.
through?
Yes, yes. It's like we had some good relationships with some government agencies, and because of that, I thought, surely we could go after that and get in, right? But it's not until you look at the data, right? The actual data, what's the trends, what's the spending like, what's their forecast, that you really start to put together the bigger picture and like, okay, yeah, we're a good fit for them. We could do this thing, but we don't really fit there. So should we spend that extra effort, that time to pursue that? And when you're small like us, at the time, I think we were two, three people, maybe two and a half, maybe.
I think, yeah. I
So
remember when you were just one.
just one, right? And so it's like, okay, I could do that, but while I do that, we're not making money, right? And we've got to be profitable. We've got to keep that revenue. We've got to keep building experience, right? And so it's like, if I truly want to be competitive here, I've got to work my way into position to be prime. And if, given all these requirements of these contract vehicles, that's where we made the decision to kind of really focus on partnerships, you know, teaming agreements, and that would lead us to subcontract opportunities, right? And so that's we're firmly planted there right now, and it's going really well. So
Any plans in the future for a GSA schedule at
there's
all?
there certainly is. There's those big ones that hang over your head, right? Like once you get in business, you got some past performance. Well, when are you going to go after that 8A, right?
Yeah.
And when are you going to go after that GSA schedule? And when, it's like a step ladder, it seems like to me, like get that 8A,
Yeah.
get the GSA. Yeah, and so I think the SBA website was down for a little bit and it's open. So I think
Back
we're
now.
on our,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
on our way to the 8A certification. And, hopefully soon now we're starting to look at that GSA schedule. So, yeah.
Well, I definitely got through my WOSB again in 18 minutes in the new system. So I
Hey,
can't speak for 8A. It's going to be a lot longer of a process with more documents, but I've gotten pretty acquainted with it. So
yeah.
as far as relationships go, I mean, you started out in one direction and then you stumbled across a need that existed in the market, and it was a need that nobody really saw coming. um, do you want to explain that need, or
Sure, sure.
just how you're
Yeah.
solving the need?
Yeah, no, I definitely would like to talk about this. I mean, in terms of relationships, we find it that's the most important thing that we do as business owners, right? Is to get out into the community, get out into industry, and create these relationships, right? Find like-minded individuals, like-minded companies that you can work with long term, right? I mean, sometimes there's a partnership there, they need you for certain things, but maybe there's some friction, right? And some ways that you don't think that's going to work out long term. I think it's important to recognize that and to find truly good working relationships where it's beneficial to everyone, right? Um, I say that because we started off so adamant that we're going to be in this DevSecOps space and software development, systems integration space, um, that we didn't always think about like what is it the other secondary skills that come with that, like cybersecurity and cybersecurity compliance, understanding what the risk management framework process is, because we've built so many systems and delivered to DoD. Um, and through some pretty, I don't want to say random uh, connections, but we go to a lot of events here in Hawaii. It's construction, engineering, it's every different trade and industry that we come together and we just kind of talk about how do we be successful as contractors here. And it's through that network of folks that someone came out to me from the military construction industry that said, "Hey, I've got this really weird need, and it's showing up in all my contracts now. It's I have to do risk management framework for a building that I'm building, like constructing or renovating out here in Hawaii." I was like, that seems really odd to me. Like, what do you mean by that? And sure enough, we looked at it and they basically took the IT cybersecurity requirements from DoD and layered it into a construction contract to cover all of the OT, like critical infrastructure systems. And it was there. I was like, okay, well, we don't really do that. We are more IT cyber, but the process does align to that, so we could definitely do it. Um, and they said, yeah, just come and try it. There's no one else that's doing this out here, so just come along, talk to the customer, talk to the prime contractor, and did that for a couple of weeks, and then yeah, we landed a contract, and we're delivering, we're managing risk management framework for a construction company, and many companies like it today throughout the Pacific. So yeah, something that we didn't really think we were after. We didn't really consider it even on our radar, really. And through this network, they came to us. They saw our value before we saw our value, I think. And,
I
um,
was just gonna say that. I mean,
yeah,
and for the audience, like, think about what Mike just said. He was speaking and teaching and, you know, integrating himself in the community, and the opportunity arose because essentially you earn that first level of trust. They're like, "Hey, we got a problem."
right.
And that is oftentimes how it happens. It really, really is.
Yeah,
But you
yeah,
found this niche and now you're doing pretty well. Your team has grown.
yes, yes. Yeah, and it's great. That's what it's all about, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you want to win work that you can perform really well. And for us anyway, it was always about growing this team so we could hire more people that are here in Hawaii and have Hawaii ties, right? Because I think across the industry, there's such a demand for cybersecurity and IT skills, and you hear about it all the time, like, oh,
Oh,
we're
yeah.
short hundreds of thousands of people. Um, but it's always like you talk to the people who are trying to hire, they're like, well, we can't find anyone. And so for us, winning this work means we get to hire the people that we know are out there that maybe just aren't connecting with those people who are recruiting, right? Now we can build this team, and then we can start to talk about it more and start to do things like workforce development programs where we create our own talent locally, right?
That's
Through these
wonderful.
programs. So
That'd be
um,
awesome.
yeah, that's kind of what we're focused on. You hit it right on the head, actually. It's like, well, small business, you don't have that much time, you probably don't even have that much money. How can I get our name out there? And for us, it was, well, let's start with why we're here in the first place, which is to create jobs and create opportunity, and really educate people on cybersecurity. And that turned into us having many talks in the community, free talks about CMMC, just talking about, OT cybersecurity to construction companies, talking about cyber hygiene at schools, and colleges. That is actually what I believe is like truly organic marketing, right? And that
Oh,
you're
yeah.
building trust while you're putting your name out there, and everybody wins from that, right? Uh, so
Absolutely.
that's been tremendous for us. Yeah,
I look at a lot of the trainings that I do for some of our partners sort of in the same manner. And I just kind of like to teach.
Right?
So I'm doing what I love, and the good karma comes back.
Ab-
We'll call it
Absolutely.
karma.
Absolutely. And like there's so many cyber and IT companies out there. I think you have to do something to differentiate yourself, right? Add that little bit of value, right? So instead of just the cold calls and random emails, like try to put something on it. Do a webinar like this. It costs almost nothing, right? Educate. And I think you'd be surprised by the results of that.
Yeah, information sharing, there are different ways to do it. I know that this is something I've been trying to get better at myself, but being a keynote speaker or submitting an abstract to one of the small business conferences, where a lot of your primes are going to be at and speaking on your topic,
Yeah,
getting yourself out there, getting out of your comfort zone is going to be um, sort of a path to allow your audience to trust you, maybe want to know more about your services. But if you're sitting behind your computer and you're
right,
not telling anybody how good you are at what you do and what sets you apart, how are they going to know?
right,
So being proactive rather than sitting around on Sam being reactive is definitely it's a must in this industry. Not all industries. If you're selling products or you're doing something else, the relationships may not be as important as they are when you're providing high risk services.
right,
I mean, and that's just is what it is. These security controls didn't show up in new building construction
right,
um, for any other reason. So,
right.
I mean, luckily for you.
Right. It's being, I think being out there in the community, connecting with people, understanding what their needs are. And today it may not look like an opportunity, but something might come up, a topic might come up in a year from now. You remember, hey, we talked about this with that agency or that this prime, and I think we might have something here, right? And so sometimes like just getting out there and hearing it, it may not be valuable so much in the moment, but it's going to come back. I think everything that we do in this industry, like there's that 2-year rule, right? Where you talk about it, you do it, you kind of plan for it, and then it materializes somehow magically 18 to 24 minutes, 24 months later.
Yeah. I've been trying to
Yeah,
disprove that for
yeah.
almost 15 years, and it hasn't worked for me yet. In some
No,
cases,
not
it
yet.
has.
Yeah,
But I will say that, and this is me, I've been all week scouring SLED IT solicitations, and one challenge that is not so often spoken about is the difference in terminology that they use because IT is a very vast industry.
right,
So if you're talking about, like, for example, if I'm looking for a NAICS code, let's say I'm
mhm,
looking for custom computer programming services, but the government puts it under 541990 and then they call it applicant tracking system. That's what they're asking for is for you to custom develop a system, right? But they don't
right,
always put it where you expect them to put it in the terminology that you're expecting to see it.
right,
So it is a space where like reviewing opportunities and qualifying opportunities can be a little more time consuming if you're playing also at the sled level. Um, Not a whole lot of solicitations unless they're I see a lot of IDIQs and, the task orders, then what comes down from eBuy in our space, just as far as what I can even bid on. Um, but, so I'm completely codependent on those teams to fill my pipeline for that specific sector. And that's okay because I'm happy to grow my business through subcontracting. I'm in no hurry to prime.
right. Yeah,
But
yeah, I think you touched on something really important there. I mean, just recently there was an opportunity that came up, and we were primed for it. I think we were like ready to go. It's like kind of custom built for us, right? And it was local, so it was perfect. Um, and then it came out under a like I feel like it was a pretty random NAICS code, and it definitely wasn't one of ours, and there wasn't
Mhm.
enough time to change it. And I feel like that may have disqualified us. In fact, it did disqualify us, right? Um,
Well, the
yeah,
NAICS code itself, no,
right,
because so there was a protest recently,
Okay.
Someone actually tried to protest an award because the awardee didn't have the NAICS code on their SAM. And so the precedent has been set. You do not have to have a NAICS code on your SAM registration to be able to bid on a contract. That was just within the last few months, believe it or not.
Okay.
I'll
Yeah,
have to
that
look up the protest and send you the link, but, yeah, that was now if it was a local contract,
right.
SLED rules obviously are gonna vary, but at least at the federal level, somebody tried doing that, and they were mad that they lost, and they lost their protest too.
Got it. Yeah, and I think that's great to know, right? And this is why it's important to have people on your team that can tell you these things. And I don't know how many panic calls I've had to Ashley about some random problem that comes up. But yeah, have a good team around you because you're like me and you're listening to this podcast. You're into IT. You're an engineer. You're operating right now. You're very good at that. But there's all the other things that you never thought about before getting into this business that becomes almost more important than your actual technical skills, right? So yeah,
Yep, and you did it right by building a solid foundation,
right.
and that is how you're gonna avoid falling through those gaps, and I gotta say, I am so happy to have you join us tonight. Thank you so much for sharing your
Yeah,
story and, just, being here to spread your experience with the audience who most and a lot of them are a lot newer to the space and getting started, so I
yeah.
appreciate you. I hope you'll come back and join us
Of
again in the future.
course, yeah. There's so much to talk about when it comes to IT. Cyber is going to affect everybody, right, Ashley? CMMC is a thing that could go on for 5 hour podcast. But if I could leave anything as a parting thought, like, you know, you're here, you're in IT, you're very good at what you do, you want to get out there. I think the most important thing is not to be afraid to get out there, right? Get out to the industry events, go shake some hands, introduce yourself, bring your capability statement, have that conversation, right? 2 years ago, I was sitting here and Ashley told me to do the same thing, and I was dreading it. I don't want to go. I don't. I don't want to do it. But it definitely was the game changer for us. And so
I
yeah,
find that's also true with tradesmen, the
yeah,
construction companies, and they don't necessarily wanna much go to the events nor to the engineers,
yeah,
but you gotta put yourself out there. They have and there's
yeah,
something to be said for that. I even myself hid behind my computer for as long as I possibly could, believe it or not.
yeah.
But, seeing
Yeah,
that return on investment, as long
yeah,
as the events you're going to obviously are going to lead to business. Find
mm,
the events that your customers are at or your future customers, your aspiring customers,
yeah.
and show up.
Yeah,
They can't pay for you.
strategically pick it, and because we
Yeah,
can't afford to go all of them, right? So
right.
pick it strategically. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. We did an episode on that a couple weeks ago, and I'm sure before A Day comes around again, we'll be doing another one. So,
so that sounds good.
all right, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. I will let you guys all get back to trick or treating this evening. Michael, thank you. I'll
Thank you.
talk to you soon, and you have a great weekend.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.